Fill her up.
You're listening to the Gas Digital Network.
With Robb Flynn.
What up? What up? What up? Podcast party. People. What's happening? How you feeling? How you living? How you doing? How you hanging? How you chilling? Maxing? Relaxing? I got a lot to unpack today. Got a lot to unpack for you today. I just got off of a Zoom video. I just got off of a podcast. That's been my thing now. I do a podcast, and then I do the intro for the previous week's podcast to kind of, because I'm ahead on my podcast, which I love. And, dude, I just got off of podcast KK Downing from Judas Priest. Get the fuck out of here. Dude. That was some bucket list shit right there. It was awesome. That was some bucket list shit. Talking to that man. Really cool. I mean, it was a really good interview. Talked about shit that I'd never heard him talk about. Certainly not anything that he's talking about currently in the press. You know, he's got a new record out called KK's Priest, Sermon of the Sinners. It's metal as fuck, dude. It's good. It's really good. Metal as fuck. So I'm on a bit of a high right now. I was just, it was a great conversation. He's cool as, dude, he's so fucking cool. A legend right there. The motherfucker's a legend. He's awesome. So, yeah, I'm on a bit of a buzz right now. Got a bit of a high from my podcast. And I'm sober as fuck. Nothing. Just feeling good from that. Let's see, I tell you what. I have my podcast topics right now. Let's see. My first podcast topic was, I enjoy washing my car. I enjoy washing my car. I was washing my car on Sunday, which I do every 2 weeks, if you didn't know. I used to not wash my car for a long time, and now I'm just like, eh. And then I was paying $40 to go wash my car at some joint. And it was the best joint in town. I can't remember what they're called now, but they're good. But it was like, I'd do it like once a month. And they, you know, like sometimes they do a great job, and sometimes they would do a really shitty job for $40+ plus a tip. And I was like, motherfucker, I ain't paying you all this money to fucking go. You know, I had like a subscription so I could go in as many times as a month, but then I'd only end up going like once a month. So I'm like, I ain't gonna go. Hell, this is too much. Too much money. And you're not even doing a good job. Like half the time you don't fucking, you know, clean my windows, or there's, you know. So right next door to that place is one of those places that you can drive up into and wash yourself. So it's like a covered area. It's got like a power wash, and then it's got like a brush, and you can do it. So I started going there because I was like, I can do a better job than these motherfuckers for hella less money. You know, so now it's about like $15 compared to $45, and I go in there, and you know, it's usually on a Sunday. My wife goes to work. I'm hungover, and it's just like the perfect. It's just like my speed. Like I can go in there. You know, sometimes it takes a long time. You got to wait in line, but I vacuum my car, and I vacuum that shit sick. And then I go in and I wash it, and I do I do the power wash. I do the tire cleaner first, and then I do the power wash with soap, and then I do the brush, and then I rinse it off. And brush, I kind of break it into 4 pieces, and I do the brush on that. And then I put the fucking foam conditioner all over it, and then I spray the wax all over it and rinse it off, and then it's about $15. Takes me about, probably all said and done, like if I don't got to wait for somebody, it's about a half an hour, but the other day it was 45 minutes because I had to wait for somebody. And I don't know, there's something very relaxing about it to me. I don't know why. There's something very relaxing about washing the car. It's like, doing something that maybe some people don't want to do. Other rock stars, rappers might not want to do. But I'm like, I don't know, I dig it. And my car looks fucking dope as fuck. My car looks so fucking butter after it's done. Jesus, I crushed that shit. I used to work at a car wash too. For about 3 months I worked at a car wash when I was a kid. And I wasn't very good. I was not. None of the cars I washed ever looked as good as I make my car look. Yeah. But it was good money. They paid good money. That was when I was living in Fremont. And anyway, I just thought I'd share that story. My car looks extra butter today because I fucking cleaned it up on Sunday, baby. And then on Saturday, I heard the horrible news about the Travis Scott concert. Travis Scott's a rapper. I've known about Travis Scott forever. My oldest son is a big fan. We've actually rocked out to some Travis. I like some of the younger hip hop, and he's got some good songs. Especially that song he did with Drake was kind of a banger. But Sicko Mode, I think it's called. And dude, over the weekend, I don't know if you guys heard, but he does a thing called Astro World. He had an album called Astro World, then he started a touring festival called Astro World, or maybe just like a single night festival. And there was 50,000 people, and I don't know what happened, but like nobody knows what happened. There was apparently during his show it was overpacked and people were crammed in, and 8 people ended up dead. 8 people died, and tons of people went to there's like a 9-year-old, one of them was a 14-year-old kid that died, 21-year-old, 2 people celebrating their birthdays. Like, it was really tragic, just horrible. And I don't know, whatever you think of rap or whatever, it's irrelevant. This is a tragedy, a concert tragedy. It's so bad. And they were apparently crushed in a stage rush, or the stage crush, or nobody knows. There's a bunch of rumors going around that, somebody had a needle with drugs, and that causes, they were trying to stab people, and then that caused the crowd rush, and, other things. And there's another rumor going around from the police department that there was a bunch of pills laced with fentanyl, which is very, very common now. So if you're parent of teenagers, man, you got to have that talk. You got to have that talk. Like, don't be taking anything. Like, all these fucking pills now, black market pills, they get laced with fentanyl. Motherfuckers are ODing like crazy. And anyway, a bunch of people got injured, and now there's all these lawsuits. It's fucking horrible, man. It was really, and it just, as somebody in the music industry, as someone who has played to concerts of 50,000. I've played concerts to 300,000 people. Concerts to 130,000 people. It's, there's a lot of blame being placed on Travis Scott. He should have stopped the show. People were yelling out help, and he didn't stop. And it's like, I can tell you what, there is no way that he knew this shit was going on. You can't hear, and he had in-ears on. There's no way that he heard this. There's no way. I know he saw a couple of people, somebody else should have stopped the concert. It wasn't up to him to stop the concert. Somebody else should have. Once they knew that stuff was going on, like, that should have been, he's just up there performing. Like, he's in his own fucking mode. Like, you don't know what's going on. You can't hear anything with those in-ears. So, I don't know. I just felt like it needed to be addressed. There's a lot of people kind of rushing to judgment, and a lot of the stuff I've read in the newspapers, and, it's just, fans are wild. He calls them ragers. And I'm like, hey, motherfucker, we're the ones who invented ragers. Like, he's, Jack and Arstes. It's no big deal. There's been a million, wild shows. And yeah, it can, when you have that many people, guess what? Like, there's a chance that shit's going to happen. Remember with Full Force Festival in Germany, lightning struck. A bunch of people died there. Just all these people coagulated together. But we as humans love getting together in big groups of people like that. So it's horrible, man. It was really horrible. And I found out about that Saturday morning. And then I quickly forgot about it because me and my wife went on a walk, and then we got in some big stupid argument. And oh my God, it was the dumbest argument. So dumb. And then it just never ended. Like, we were just bickering all night. I was so fucking, so stupid. I woke up on Sunday just like, what the fuck, dude? What are we doing? Our life is so good. We got nothing to fucking argue about. Got a beautiful house, amazing kids, like fucking, we love each other. Like, this is so fucking stupid. It's so dumb. But we did. And we probably even continued a little bit longer. It was just like, fuck. So pointless. So pointless. And, you both play a role in it. I played a role in it. I could have just let things slide off my back. She could have just not said things, but takes two to tango. Know what I mean? Takes two to tango. So, I don't know. I had a bunch of my friends were arguing with their wives all weekend. I was like, what the fuck is going on? It's like fucking argument fever taking over. Like, a bunch of my friends, like, fucking arguing with the wife. I was like, I'm arguing. What the fuck? What's going on? Happens, I guess. Maybe it's the holidays coming up. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the fact that it's raining and the summer is officially gone, and now we're just like, the sun's gone. I don't know. Anyway, enough of that. Let me get into my guest here. Very stoked about my guest. I'll tell you what, this was a really, really cool. Hold on a second here. Let me find out. Let me get all my shit. I'm not ready to do all this. This dude was super cool, man. Super, super cool. Had a blast talking to him. Let me get my... I pull up everything, for fuck's sake. I'm totally... There we go. All right. Ben Hutcherson. The mighty Ben Hutcherson. I really like this dude a lot, man. He was super good dude. Great guest. Fucking great guest. Killer band, too. If you never heard this band, I'm going to play you their latest single. I believe their record drops next week, 2 weeks from now, something like that, week and a half from now. They got a new single out. This is called Living Pyre. It's a banger. They don't like being called stoner, so I'm not going to call them stoner, but this is some good stonerish, doomish, heavy-ish heaviness. But then the singer, dude, two singers. Ben's one of the singers. The other guy, Phil, is the clean singer. His voice is awesome. Cool, right? Fucking cool. Listen to that guitar tone, man. Motherfucker's got some savage guitar tone. Check this out. This is their #1 song on Spotify, A Conversation with Death. I guess this is like a old folk tune from, I don't know where, Scotland, Ireland, I don't know.
Won't you spare me over till another year?
Cool shit, right? This is House of, how do you say this? House of Khemmis. This must be the new single. Nuclear Blast artist, if you did not know. New album called Deceiver, out November 19th. They're going on tour too in America, playing in Brooklyn, doing a whole run. Man, that dude's voice is killer, right? So cool. Yeah. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I want to get started here on this interview with a really cool cat, the mighty Ben Hutcherson of Khemmis. Ben Hutcherson, how you doing, man?
I'd say I'm living the dream, but the world's kind of a flaming nightmare right now. So I'm alive. I think I can say that pretty confidently. How about yourself, brother?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. I don't know. Have you I don't know about you, but I found the pandemic in some ways to be, I don't know. I've probably enjoyed it more than I should have. Like there's been things about it that I definitely liked. And
yeah,
now that things are kind of starting to go back to normal, I'm like, yeah, I like that other way about the pandemic a lot better.
I always feel bad saying like, oh, there were silver linings or there were upsides to it, because obviously like it's awful in so many ways, but
Totally.
I've been really fortunate to have the experience of like, being locked down with my wife and dog and cat. Like these are my favorite people to spend time with. And I know I just said my dog and cat are people, but like I still like them more than most people anyway. So like I really can't complain about that.
Right. Totally. I mean, I've been the same for me. Like, I mean, just being able to have this time. I mean, I know you guys are road dogs. You tour a lot, same for us. To being able to spend, whether it was forced or not, to be able to have this time has been amazing. So
yeah, absolutely. And, I would say that it gave us the opportunity to sort of check in with ourselves, maybe forced us to check in with ourselves in a way that, for some people has obviously been a lot harder. But I mean, I'm grateful for that, for the opportunity to step back and ask some big questions and sort of get my head and my heart right and pay attention to things that maybe, we were all maybe taking for granted a bit before.
Right. Totally, man. It's now when I go to a show, I'm like, fuck, I'm at a show. Like whereas before it was just like, oh, I'm going to a show.
Yeah.
Another show. Like it's.
I've also had the experience, I'm curious if you've had this where like, it takes more to get me out now at the same time. Like I want it to be special each time. So it's just like, everybody wants to play a show, and I get that, but people are like, oh, I'm playing today, I'm playing tomorrow, and I'm like, dog, I'm not going to 5 shows a week ever again in my life.
It's like the gold rush right now. Everyone's just clamoring to get on the road, and so there's so many bands coming through. It's just ridiculous.
That's it.
And I'm like, I'm vaccinated, and I'm like, I feel safe. California's definitely got like low numbers, so I do feel safe going out, but like, I don't want to go out that much. Like, I don't want to see that many people. If anything, that's what the pandemic has taught me more than anything, that I just don't need to be around people as much as I thought I did.
Yeah, man. Quality over quantity. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like everything else. It's a balancing act, right?
Yeah.
And for me, the balance is shifted towards, I'm fine being at home watching TV, just like doing things that, younger me would have been like, oh my God, you've got all these shows, all this cool stuff happening. That's
right.
Dog, no, that's not what it's about.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the highlight of my week is, so we do an online show on Friday, just called Electric Happy Hour. We just do it out of my jam room and broadcast it onto whatever. And it started off just on my phone, literally just like a Facebook Live on my phone.
Yeah.
And it's kind of evolved into some other stuff. So we do that. And then I drink a few beers there. And then I go home with my wife. And especially because of the pandemic, we just started having a date night. Like Friday and Saturday is now date night. We go into the garage, put some candles up. We just drink and listen to music and talk and laugh and whatever, shoot the shit. And I love it. Like, this is like the highlight of my week. What I mean? Like,
dude, absolutely, man. Yeah. I love hearing that. I love love. We're going to talk about metal. We're going to talk about darkness, but there's like, the older I get, the more there's this like crunchy hippie side of me where I'm like, I love talking about like joy and love and kindness, and yet another way in which I'm sure like 21-year-old me would be disgusted with how unbrutal and how untrue I am. And I'm like, no, you got to really understand though, like, it's those times with the people you love, you got to hold on to it. The blast beats can wait.
Right. Totally. Yeah, totally. I don't care. Like, I just don't care. Like, I look forward to it. Sometimes we like, one of my favorite memories that we have from this from the date night, the pandemic date nights. And granted, I got 2 kids, so like, date night we never had dates. We never went out. We never did anything. Like, it was just like kids, your focus of your life is just on the kids. And then now my kids are a little older. So like, this was really the first time in 14 years when we could actually have a date night.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my God, we can have a date. Like, we can do this. The kids are like, the house isn't going to burn. We're going to be okay. Like, okay, cool. Let's do it.
Yeah. Right.
And, one of my favorite ones, we went down, we listened to whatever. Like, sometimes we listen to, she likes to listen to like old 70s shit, like Fleetwood Mac and, the Police and, or like 80s. She's big new wave goth kid. And so we'll go down that route, and I don't care. I'm just like, whatever. I'm just cool with the hang. And then other times we go down, like sometimes it's Slayer and Sepultura night. And then other night, the favorite night I think we've had in a long time was we were like, put on Queensryche Operation Mindcrime.
Nice.
And I love that record. I don't recall her loving that record, but then we started listening to it. We were both like, fuck, this record is so fucking good. Like, just top to bottom, every song. And we played it again. We did a repeat. We did the whole album. We're hammered. We're just like singing along, trying to hit all the Jeff Tate notes. And we're like, fuck. It was a blast though.
Yeah. I think that's another thing too, is like the ability like to dig into albums, even albums that like you think because you got fuck else to do. Like, like let's really maybe not analyze, but like sit in those records. I've had that experience quite a few times in the last, 18 months or so. We'll put on like John Prine's first album or, Steely Dan. I love Steely Dan.
Right. Like I've never done a deep dive on Steely Dan. Like, what's some gems on from Steely Dan?
I mean, let me preface this by saying, if you don't dig Steely Dan, that's okay. Like, I absolutely understand the long list of reasons why Steely Dan doesn't do it for a lot of people. My dad loved Steely Dan. And so, like, a lot of people, you're growing up and whatever your parents dig, you hate. And it's just like, that's the rule. And like in my mid 20s, I guess the two albums that really landed with me that are my favorites from them are Pretzel Logic and The Royal Scam.
Okay.
And there was something about, I mean, also, there was something about, I think, the amount of drugs I was doing at the time that made me like, I was like, oh, I get it. Oh, I get it. I know what that heartache mixed with all those drugs is like, man. And I remember calling my dad one day and being like, like, I understand these records. And he was like, how often are you getting fucked up? And I was like, I mean, a lot, but that's not what it's about, man. What it's about is the headspace. And, now being on the other side of that, there's, I can still appreciate it in that way, but there's just this level of musicianship that the people they surrounded themselves with, there's just so many little things, whether it's the like restraint shown by whoever's drumming on whatever album or whatever song. They always had great guitar players playing really tasty stuff. What's his name? Larry Carlton played with him for a while, and just these really great licks. But it's also, I think it's a really good example of doing stuff in service to the song, because everyone on those records could have just been ripping the whole time.
Right.
It was always about these really tight, cleverly crafted, 3-minute, ostensibly pop songs, even if they are like adult contemporary or what the fuck ever. And there's always like I think a really appealing mix of humor and darkness to those, where like, it sounds like he's almost laughing and almost crying at the same time. And God, if there's any time where that might resonate with people, I think the last couple of years,
right.
That's it,
Totally.
So those two records are the ones. A lot of people will tell you Asia. Nope. That's that one. It's too, I don't know. It doesn't do it.
What are the two again? Just fire them up again.
Pretzel Logic. And
Logic.
The Royal Scam.
Okay.
And Monty Connor will tell you I'm wrong, and Monty is wrong. We talked about this the other day. Monty was like, Ben, it's really about Asia. And I was like, no, Monty, it's not. It's these right here. And he was like, all right, okay, he says so. That's my Monty impression. All right, you say so. It's a terrible impression.
Monty, is he your A&R guy?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's good. Good for you, man. He's a great
man. Guy. It's, it's the kind of thing that, like, when he came to see us at St. Vitus back in 2017, I guess, for the first time, he real quickly went from being, in my mind, like, it's Monty Connor, to like, oh, this is like the dude you want, like, quote unquote famous people to be, where he's just got cool stories and he wants to tell you about his home life and stuff. And he also has tons of good stories about, signing this band and that band, and the time that he, did a King Diamond cover and things like that. He's like the cool uncle that's full of good stories.
He has extraordinarily sensitive nipples too, if you didn't know.
Okay, duly noted. I'm gonna see him when we're in New York in December, so I'll ask him about his nipples and we'll see how that goes.
He can only wear certain types of shirt, or his nipples get super big and point out like a girl at a wet t-shirt contest.
Holy shit. Oh my God. Yes,
definitely make sure that you make a comment about that.
This whole episode is now just a deep dive on Monty Connor and his body. Here we go.
We could just do a deep dive on Monty Connor. He does have so many stories. I mean, Jesus, you think about like how many bands that guy, like how much music, his choices in signing bands has changed my life.
Oh yeah,
permanently. Took me in other directions. Anybody from Obituary to Sepultura to Biohazard to, I mean, fucking.
It's fucking crazy, dude.
Yeah. Machine signed me 4 times now, so which is
exactly. I was gonna say, like, the impact that he has had on like the face of just modern heavy music. I mean, especially in the US, but really just globally, it boggles the mind.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't, I think that he gets the credit for it for the most part. I think Roadrunner as a whole maybe gets more of the credit, like Roadrunner Records gets the credit, but he was certainly in those early years, he was pretty much the only dude signing the bands.
Yeah,
And then they got a couple of guys in there later on that brought in like Killswitch Engage, and then they got the one guy who brought in like Nickelback and like all those type of bands.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're like, yeah, fuck that guy. No.
Hey, look, everybody's got preferences and everybody's got opinions, and yeah, but Monty's signings were the ones that changed my musical trajectory.
Sure.
I still think back to like the first time. Well, it's funny, like the fact that I was going to talk to you. I texted my brother about it a couple days ago, and he was like, man, do you remember sitting in my pickup truck? So my brother's 5 years older than me. He's like, do you remember sitting in my pickup truck when I guess he would have been like 21, so I would have been like 16 or so. And he was like, we were just drinking Bud Light and listening to, the first couple Machine Head records. And I was like, yes, I do. Those like formative moments. He was like, yeah, those were the days, right? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if the days drinking Bud Light in northern Mississippi are like the in and of themselves my halcyon days, but certainly like listening to this music, I have a special place in my heart for that. I could do without the Bud Light and the pickup truck part of it, though.
Not a Bud Light fan anymore, huh?
No, I quit drinking a couple years ago, but even before I quit drinking, my preference for beer, I didn't really, I don't know if I ever really liked beer. You grow up in Mississippi and like, you're going to be a man, you're going to drink beer. So like I drank beer, but I didn't find out till much later that like, I'm allergic to hops. So like,
wow.
If I had more than a couple of beers, suddenly I'd get very like stuffy and like my eyes would get itchy. I'd be like, oh, whatever, it's fine. I'm a man. I'm just going to drink some more of this Milwaukee's Best Light. And it's going to be good. But my drink of choice for the last few years I drank was just tequila, just straight tequila. And then when I quit drinking, now my drink of choice when it's not high quality water is sugar-free Red Bull, which I feel like is maybe just as bad for me in some ways as the booze was.
Maybe, yeah. Or not, it's not going to have.
Well, yeah,
it's not going to have the effect of alcohol is totally different.
Exactly. Yeah, it's certainly easier to maintain control over the gut when I'm not drinking booze all the time.
By the way, I had nothing against Nickelback when they got signed by. If anything, I was quite happy that Nickelback got signed because they actually kept the lights on at Roadrunner for about a few years longer than it would have, because there was a peak there where the metal bands kind of all started going down, and then Nickelback just exploded. And it was like, oh, sweet, someone's keeping the lights on. So.
Yeah, God, I can't even begin to imagine how many records they've sold. I've always like
that one album went diamond, dude. It was 10 million copies. It's fucking crazy.
That's crazy, man. I can't imagine. Look, the music is not for me, but they all seem like top-notch dudes. They all seem to have a real good sense of humor about it. Yeah. And, know
that this is what all of the news aggregators are going to pick up right now.
Yeah, that's fine. They're going to be like, give us a Machine Head
from Khemmis says that Nickelback is pretty cool. Or whatever.
That's fine. Then Nickelback
do that,
can all out on tour.
Yeah.
And we can play at the Super Bowl with them.
Right. That would be, would you tour with Nickelback?
Dude, I would tour with, well, I won't say anybody, but anybody that's not a piece of shit, regardless of musical genre, probably, yeah. I would totally tour with Nickelback.
I could definitely see a band like you wouldn't, I don't know if they would embrace you, but like you wouldn't, no one would think you sucked, like you're a singer. If I'm clear, just I'm pretty sure I got this right, but you're the guy who does like the death vocals. Your other guy does the clean singing. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
so we'd probably do a set that leaned more on the clean singing for that Nickelback tour. But there's that crossover where like they did stuff with Dimebag. They're gonna have some Pantera fans. Right.
They got hot 30-year-old girls that.
Don't say that. My wife's next door.
I'm not even joking though. Like I had a buddy who worked for one of my good friends worked for Daughtry. And he was, Daughtry was opening for Nickelback. He's like, hey, dude, I'm in town. You want to come and hang out? I was like, yeah, totally. I'll come, hang out and fucking, watch the show or not. I'm just there to hang. And I went down there. This is the amphitheater here in town, which is in the South Bay. And it's sold out. Fucking great. Daughtry played it well. He covered a Metallica song or two in the Bay Area, so that went down fucking good. Like people were like, okay, this guy sucks, but he's covering Metallica, so it's cool. And then Nickelback came out, and dude, Like, I went out in the audience. I was like, I want to soak this in. Like,
Yeah.
like I don't want to just stand on the side and watch it. And I can't even fucking. There was so many hot 30-year-old women in the audience, buttered up to the T. I mean, like hair did, nails did,
Yeah.
and they were fucking losing their minds. I was like, holy shit! And then dudes in like Slipknot shirts and Slayer shirts, like losing their fucking minds at the Nickelback show. And I was like, wow, like I didn't see this coming, but fucking good for you.
Exactly. I wouldn't have expected anything you just said, but
Right.
hey, man, good on them. Good on them for doing the work. And, hey, everybody needs some music to get them through the good times and the bad.
Right.
Whether you're a hot 30-year-old lady or, perhaps a sloppier looking dude in an oversized Slipknot shirt. Hey, more power to all of them, man.
I've been listening to I went on a deep dive. I actually listened to this podcast that was a deep dive into, it wasn't actually interviewing you. It was just a deep dive into your albums. And it was,
Okay.
I want to shout it out. I want to say it was like the all killer, no filler podcast. I can't remember right now. Actually, you know what? I think I might still have it up on my podcast. Oh, fuck. Did I? No. Recents? Shit. I think that was it, though. The all killer, no filler podcast. Okay. And they did a deep dive. It was kind of an interesting podcast because one dude is like super fan to the death. Like, this motherfucker loves you guys. And then this other guy doesn't really know anything about metal at all. And he's like, this is the reason you got to like this song. And he starts telling this. So they kind of have this like, this is why I love it. And then this other guy who's never even listened to this type of music then goes, oh, I think, this is what I could dig or like or not like or whatever. And it was pretty cool to listen to something like that and deep dive into your music. And I just want to give you a shout out on your fucking guitar tone, because Jesus Christ, dude, your fucking guitar tone. It's, I know you, as it has been mentioned many times, you don't really like the Doom classification. And I would say your guitar tone alone, it's so fucking bright and distorted and heavy. Like, it's way away from Doom. Maybe you're tuned down, you're playing slow, but it is fucking, that's some savage guitar tone, dude.
Dude, thank you so much for saying that. That means a lot, man. Guitarists, like, I feel like finding our tone is something that we all kind of, I don't know, like maybe not dream about. That might be an oversight, but we think about it a lot, right? And folks like you and me, we obsess over everything from the kind of overdrive you use to what kind of cables you have between the pedals. And it's always been important for me to find a guitar tone that is, I mean, I'm not necessarily trying to like surprise everyone or like, oh, you'll never see this coming, but like, God, how many bands have already put a big muff in front of a 72 super lead? Like, that's fine. Lots of bands have done that. But like the kind of music that I like and the kind of music that influences how I think about, playing guitar or writing music is, generally speaking, not based around that guitar tone. So like it needs to be more articulate. It needs to be, I like there being a kind of fuzzy edge to it. It gives it kind of, I don't know. I hate to say organic. I feel like that's one of those words that has lost all its meaning when we talk about music at this point.
Right.
But like something that's a little bit rounder, maybe. But I mean, I gotta really and truthfully just give it up to Orange Amps for making an amp that like can do everything. I mean, Jim Root uses the same amp we use, and when it can cover the tones from Slipknot to us to whoever else. But thank you, man. Yeah. We're really, I mean, I like our tone on all of our albums, but the rhythm tone, and especially my lead tone on this album, I've never been happier with. I'm really, really pumped on it.
Yeah. Yeah. You've definitely got some, and this is just me pulling from my own metallic knowledge, but I definitely like so many of the harmonies have that like kind of Killer Metallica-esque guitar harmony tone, and I don't even know what it is, but just when I hear it, I'm like, my ear kind of is drawn to that. So
yeah, totally. Finding that balance between like the, I guess like bassier, fatter kind of rhythm tone, and then your more sort of like liquidy sort of lead tone, like sort of finding that mid spot, I think can be tricky, surprisingly tricky, given that it's really just a matter of like, roll off a little bit of treble, cut a little bit of low end, but to give it its own kind of like tonal character, but also to give it kind of a vocal quality, because that's what a good harmony is. It's kind of replicating what the human voice can do, or at least, you know, channeling some of those same emotions. It should be emotive. And if you have like a really, you know, like abrasive, clangy guitar tone for that, it sort of undermines what you're trying to do with it.
It sounds to me like a lot of it's being played on the neck pickup.
It depends, really. I mean, when the two of us are harmonizing together, generally no. Generally, it's going to be on the bridge pickups.
Okay.
For solo stuff, it varies. I also switch overdrives whenever I'm playing solos.
Oh, okay.
So I use an Earthquaker Plumes in front of my amp. It's basically like a fancy tube screamer.
Right.
But I switched to I should remember what this is called. The J Rocket Archer, maybe. It's like the Steve Stevens pedal, which is weird to use in this band, but it's a
Billy Idol guitar player, Steve Stevens.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
It's his signature overdrive, and it's a Klon style overdrive with a graphic EQ. But like, I love that kind of, like, again, I guess like liquidy is the closest I can think of kind of lead tone. Especially like my ideal lead tone comes from a lot of like melodic death metal, or like sort of like older technical death metal, like Muhammad from Necrophagist. Like that is, he and Christian Munzer, their lead tones on that Necrophagist album Epitaph, that like that's what I've always been after, where like it's articulate, but if you do the legato stuff, it's still smooth. Like Dimebag's lead tone, for instance, has never done it for me when I'm trying to play. Like, sounds good on record, but like I like it to be a little bit more I don't know, violin-esque, also because it helps me cover up my mistakes. So
you're saying that the Steve Stevens pedal has, so it's an overdrive, but then it has a built-in EQ.
Yeah.
So then you shape that lead tone even more with the built-in
exactly.
EQ. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I've
never heard of that.
Pedal. Yeah. You should check it out. Shout out to J Rocket. They make some really great. It's funny because they make a lot of cool pedals that aren't generally used by metal people, because, you know, in metal, we like, oh, if it doesn't have skulls on it, I don't know if I'm going to put it on my board. And
it needs to have blood splatters, or I don't
exactly. Yeah. They're like, it's not brutal enough.
My pedals they're, you know, dorky pedals from the 70s and 80s. Yeah. That's all.
Good pedals are good pedals. I feel like one of the maybe issues that metal guitarists can have, not always, but like they can be sort of myopic about influences or tone or whatever, and like, oh, I'm only going to think about, you know, playing like the people that play the same kind of music as me.
Right.
I guess it's fucking boring. Like, find a cool tone, find a weird sound, you know, listen to Django Reinhardt, you know, like branch out a little bit. You can still be brutal and also really like to listen to country music.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I plagiarize Robert Smith from The Cure all the time. Like, his guitar tone to me is so, like, his clean tone to me is just,
it's classic, man.
In my ears, it's so amazing. And, you know, I'm constantly, like, when I think of a clean tone, that's what I'm going for on my guitar, you know.
Again, like in metal, even just the fact that we're talking about clean tones, I feel like so many dudes right now are just, clean. I don't need a 1-channel amp. I need a 0-channel amp.
Right.
I mean, I love
There's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, yeah, to be fair, I'm sort of poking fun. There's certainly times where I'm like, you know, a good heavy channel is all you need. But, you know, it's also nice to have the ability, I think, to diversify your sound, even if you don't have to use it a lot. I mean, we've not done a ton of clean passages on Khemmis records before. We've got the most on this one by far, because I think we have 3. We have 3 on this album. And, you know, first couple albums, I don't know if we had any. So, you know, we're gradually diversifying our sound with regard to that. And again, I have to go back to those orange amps. The clean channel on the new Rock Reverb is very Fendery, has that nice subtle mid-range scoop, very glassy. Dude, you put a little reverb on it and just
awesome.
That's good. It's good stuff.
I think your new videos for the Pyre song is awesome.
Thank you, man.
Killer song. I'm gonna give a shout out to my bass player Jared, who is a huge fan of your band. Like,
dude, Jared's a homie. Much love to Jared.
He fucking loves you guys.
I remember we didn't actually get to meet the first time he came out to see us. He came out to see us when we toured with Black Dahlia and Pig Destroyer. And we got off stage and we were back in the green room. And it's funny because I was still drinking at this point. And a venue staff member comes back and they've got bottles of whiskey in their arms. And they're like, I'm looking for Khemmis. And we're like, yeah, that's us. And they hand us a bottle of Jack. And they're like, this is from Jared from Machine Head. And we're like, what? And then he like sent me an Instagram message. He was like, hope you liked it, man. That's cool. I was like, dude, that's awesome, man. Can we be friends? He's like, let's be friends. He's like, you want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons? Let's talk about Dungeons and Dragons.
That's classic. Oh, that's
Yeah,
classic.
man.
He didn't tell me
Good
that
dude.
story. That's awesome. Yeah. He so we were talking about just that. We were talking about your new songs and, you know, the new video and stuff. So yeah, it's killer. It's really cool. Cool video concept, you know. Tell me about some of this. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Wait, which one are we talking about? The animated video or the
No, it's like a
live
performance
action
video. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because we did a live action. What the fuck? We did a human video for Living Pyre, and then we
Living
just
Pyre.
put out an animated one for House of Khemmis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Animated like in the style of your album art?
sort of. It's done by this guy, Costin Chorianu, who is a Romanian artist who he did videos for At the Gates and Carcass, and I mean a bunch of other bands, but most recently for them.
Cool.
And it's very surreal. Like we, you know, sent him the lyrics, sent him the music, and what he came up with is wild and like very emotive, but also like very, very surreal. If you haven't had a chance, check that one out. It's pretty trippy.
Yeah. Is it cartoon versions of you guys performing or playing or anything?
No.
There's no like extra buffed version of you.
We'll do the Death Clock version of us for the next album. That's what we'll do. Just muscles on muscles.
Yes.
That'll be good. It'll look like we're just wearing like what was it, Hans and Franz suits from SNL.
Right. And just in furry underwear.
Oh yeah, just Man-O-War Khemmis.
Yeah.
Yes. And then we're gonna get all the hot 30-year-old lady fans from Nickelback. They're gonna be fawning over our heavily muscled, oiled bodies.
Yeah, and they're gonna see you live and be like, oh, they look kind of different on stage.
They really let themselves go from that animated video. Yeah, the video for Living Pyre was cool. What's interesting about it is a little sort of behind the scenes here. Is so Phil like stars in the sort of narrative side, and he wasn't going to originally. The actress that was supposed to do it had to drop out the night before.
Oh wow!
So the director calls and was like, "This is happening. I don't know what we're gonna do."
He did
Phil's
good.
Like,
I thought he did
exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, and Phil's like, "I'll do it." He's like, "Ben, Zach, do you guys want to do it?" I was like, "I have no desire to go run around be chased by someone in the dark for 6 hours. No, thank you." And you know, like sort of like the way that we approach our album art, that they, you know, there's always that kind of degree of ambiguity, because if it's too on the nose, then it's hard for people to relate to. If it's like, this is exactly what this story is about. No one wants to hear a song that's like, I was outside and I was feeling sad because of the state of the world. And you don't want to see a video of someone just pontificating upon that either.
No.
So trying to, you know, approach some of these larger themes from the album about, you know, the idea of the omnipresence of the past, and, you know, that you often feel like you are trapped by it, or in some cases being, you know, chased by it, whether it's your individual past or a sort of societal history, and how we often find ourselves sort of feeling torn between that and the futility of trying to like control and predict the future, when in reality all you've got, like I said, the older I get, the more I turn to like crunchy hippie. All you've got's the right now, is the, you know, living in this kind of moment, which is a profound realization to have. And for us came, you know, as a result of being in quarantine and having to sort of live with ourselves individually in a way that we hadn't in a long time. And so that obviously influenced the writing of the record and everything. But when it came time for the video, you know, we communicated this to the director, Eric, who's a local guy who's done some cool independent films. And, you know, we knew him, you know, friend of a friend kind of thing, but we threw this stuff out there and we're like, but we want you to come up with this imagery. Like there's nothing I think more satisfying than collaborating with someone who does some other kind of art and like handing over your set of ideas and saying, but now you meet me in the middle, as opposed to like, because like I'm not a videographer. If I said, okay, here's what the first shot should be, and then it should be a hard cut to this, fuck, nobody, like it's going to be a mess because I have no idea. But being able to take that to him, and especially for Phil, who was, you know, going to be acting in it, to be able to communicate with him about, okay, you know, this is sort of where my head is, or this is where our head was collectively writing this song, and for him to find ways to communicate that visually was really satisfying. And you know, to have a music video that has both, I think, it feels human. It doesn't feel like overly Hollywood or anything, but also feels professional and respectable. Feels like the right kind of balance for us to strike.
Awesome. No, awesome.
Yeah.
Man.
I'm glad you dug it, man.
Yeah. Now I'm curious. Now I'm very curious to check out the animated one. Just
yeah,
I think that when those are done right, they can be like, I'm thinking of the Kvelertak animated video comes to mind. You know, like it just made like when I think of that song, now I think of that video.
Exactly. Yeah. I the tricky thing I think in working with an artist like literally from around the world, you know, with a different, you know, cultural background, and even just like handing the lyrics over, like it's going to mean something totally different to him. There was, I think, a bit more general nervousness, even though we'd seen his other work and knew that he could crush it. It's like, oh, what if his interpretation's totally foreign to us and totally just doesn't feel right? And then for him to bring the video in and just, I mean, really just blew us away. It's for someone to be able to find the parts of anything you do, you know, that it resonates with them, with their experiences, their, you know, it could be good things, bad things, both. And then for them to turn out another piece of art and kind of offer it back feels like, I don't know, it feels like a very inspiring thing for me. And for the last couple of years, I can say that I personally have needed that inspiration, you know, needed to feel that kind of affirmation of the potential of human kindness and collaboration. Because fuck, when you go outside anymore, it often feels like you're stepping out preparing for some degree of battle, whether it's going to the grocery store or engaging in political discourse or whatever. There are, it seems like, fewer and fewer reasons to feel hopeful in our species. So having that moment, and also like the communication back and forth with Costin, him being like, you know, this really affected me, and I didn't expect the song to move me in this way. Like, that's a hell of a compliment.
Yeah.
I mean, for anyone to say it, but especially someone whose job is literally having bands, you know, offer up some piece of themselves in collaboration, when it feels like you're both speaking each other's languages, that's powerful.
Were you guys able to get together to write during the pandemic, or were you writing like, do you all live in Denver?
Phil lives about an hour from here in a small town north of here. We weren't able to get together until like early fall, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
We went into lockdown, I guess, at the beginning of March.
Right.
And, you know, I think and this is probably true for a lot of bands, you know, when you're a guitar-centric rock or metal band, it always starts with guitar riffs. And it always has with us. You know, you demo ideas out, you throw them in Dropbox, whatever. But we were used to then having these ideas and sort of kicking them around in the practice space. We didn't have that luxury this time. So what we did is first Phil and I tried to jam over like a Zoom and Skype. And it turns out the infrastructure is not there for that. No. That the lag is just brutal. And
the sound keeps on cutting out. And
it's, like your guitar will sound like it's underwater. Yeah. It's just a mess. So we got Guitar Pro and taught ourselves how to use it.
Okay.
And used that to exchange ideas back and forth. And initially, like, I was the one that suggested it, not thinking, oh, this will be like the primary songwriting thing. More so, I was thinking, if you send an idea over, I'm like, that's cool, but what if in that chord you change one note? You have to go re-record the whole thing. Here, I can just change the note in real time and see if that sounds better. And we wound up actually using
so
it.
how does the Guitar Pro work? Like, are you
Um,
hearing each other over the, like,
yeah.
kind of like what
So
we're doing?
well, so what it is I'm probably not going to make it sound as useful as it actually is, but it's all MIDI based. But
Okay.
you tab out whatever it is you're doing,
Oh
and
shit!
you can
Wow, crazy.
load. I think they call them sound banks that approximate the sound of a
Okay,
distorted guitar.
really?
It's better than you would expect, but it's still definitely not a human playing it. But it's
Right.
close enough,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
That's crazy. Okay.
And so we would, whether it was just like a riff or maybe a skeleton for a song, you put it up, you put the file in Dropbox, the other person can then open it up, tweak it, save a new version, go back and forth.
Okay.
And I mean, if it weren't for that,
You can change. You can change it once it comes over and go. Oh, why don't you try the C
yeah,
chord instead of the A
exactly.
chord or whatever? Okay, gotcha. Trippy. And
Or
then he
like,
can
hey, I
hear
like
your
that riff.
idea
What if
back.
yeah,
All
I
right.
like this riff. What if I add a lead line over it and you just add another guitar track? Because you can have, I don't know, maybe unlimited tracks, but we never got above like maybe 6 guitar tracks, but still
Right.
you can really, for me, the big thing was being able to see the songs, literally see the songs in a compositional sense, instead of just like, oh, it's riff A, then riff B. But you can just watch it. I mean, you can hit the space bar and it plays your song back to you.
Right.
You can
Right.
hear like, oh, actually that is a weird transition, or that should be slower. And
Can you play the riff on your guitar and it tabs it out for you, or do you have to actually manually type out the tabs?
I did the latter. I think you can do the former. I honestly, the fact that we figured out how to just exchange tabs, I was like,
Okay.
this is good enough. I don't know if you have to have like a MIDI pickup or if it
Okay.
can just pick up sound.
Right.
If it's just picking up sound, I feel like it's probably not going to be the most accurate, but who knows? Maybe that's
Yeah.
what we'll figure
I
out for the
have
next
played with a
album.
MIDI pickup before. Ken from Unearth works for a pickup company, and he
It
sent me
works for
this
Fishman, right?
yeah, Fishman, and he sent me it, and I did it, and it actually worked pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah,
I had like some orchestral like violin lines, and so I played it on guitar, and then it turned it into violin, and I was like, wow, that's fucking rad.
that's sick. Yeah, I want to look into that because
Pretty
like,
cheap too. It was like $100 or something. It wasn't crazy.
yeah,
You just kind of attach it under right next in between your other pickups. So that might be a time
That's
saver with stuff like that.
totally. And I think too, one of the things that can be a little tricky is like, when you're tabbing it out, you have to be very mathematical about it because everything has to fill the bar totally. And so
I would not have the patience to do that.
it took us a little while. I mean, I think a lot of it was just being able to go back and forth. Like you hit play and it's like, well, that's not what it sounds like when I play it. And just very quickly sort of identifying like, oh, when we do this, it's always a dotted quarter note or whatever. I learned a lot about how we play music. Like
Right.
I sound a lot more educated with regard to music than I actually am, only because of using Guitar Pro for the last, 18 months or so. But the moment you ask me to like read a piece of music, oh no,
Yeah.
oh, that's bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, because of that, we were able to get, ideas. I mean, we basically had songs mapped out. I think at one point we had like 10 or 11 songs. But then we got together in the practice space and, no matter what, like that's where like every metaphor imaginable, that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where the magic happens. Exactly.
Where the magic happens.
But the cool thing was having all of these things sort of structured out.
Yeah.
There wasn't a whole lot of no, you play it like this. Like everyone had an idea of how these things could go, so we could tear them apart, put them back together if we needed to, or in some cases, which is like that's it, that's how it goes.
Yeah.
And practice
You
just
still need to have that human jamming with a human thing,
Yeah.
though. Like, like
It's not
I
satisfying
know
to just
so
play
many
to MIDI,
bands. There's so many young bands who write like they email riffs to each other and ideas, and I totally think that's cool. But like, you need to get in a fucking room and sweat and go, this sucks or this is good, or whatever. Just throw this away or fucking work on this because this is killing it.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, man. And it's the sort of thing that moving forward, like we'll use it again, but it just reaffirmed the importance of like you got to have the amps, you got to have the drums, you got to see how it feels, because like things are going to feel real weird when they have to be perfectly on a grid,
Right.
because we're not a band that everything is perfectly on a grid.
Right.
So it feels very robotic, very manufactured in that sense, until you can get in there and be like, no, it needs to swing a little bit here. No, that part should just be slow. We'll figure that out.
I mean, I always think it's crazy when bands kind of only exist in that like emailing realm. I'm like, dude, the fun part of being in a band is standing in your buddy's garage and sucking for 6 months, or just trying to figure out where you're going. Like even at this age, like my stage of my career, like sometimes I'll just like, I don't know where the fucking record's going to go. I don't know what the riffs are going to be. Like you just pour it out, and sometimes it's killer and sometimes it's terrible. And then you just got to sift through all that. And that's part of the fun. Like that's part of the challenge. That's part of the struggle. Agreed. That's part of the joy of it all, and then hitting it and getting into that thing and going, oh dude, this is killer. Like I know, like now I see where we're going.
Yeah. I like the way you put that, like the joy of being in the room. And I feel like there's so many ways that there are misunderstandings or misconceptions of what it is to be in a band, especially now by non-musicians. And they think that there's any glamour in it, which, there fucking ain't. But the joy is not from getting on the Billboard charts or like number of anything. So the joy is when everybody's kind of starting to smell bad and the amps are cooking, and you've been in there for like 5 straight hours, and like you really got to pee, but you're in the zone on this one section. Right. Like that's as close as I get to spiritual revelation. You're just a collection of people operating on the same wavelength, making something greater than the sum of its parts. That's what it's all about.
Right. Totally. I love that you said, I got to go pee, but I can't. Like totally. There's been so many times you're just like, all right, let's just we're going to wrap this up in 20 minutes. We're going to nail it. Like we're going to finish this idea.
Maybe there'll be a little dribble. That's okay. Okay. You're grown up. You don't have to tell anybody.
I'm strengthening my prostate.
I'm practicing while I'm practicing.
Right. It's like Kegels for men.
Yeah. No, I think that's going to be the thing that all the news websites pick up. Robb Flynn, it's like Kegels for men.
Hopefully it's your quotes.
Okay. Ben from Khemmis, it's like Kegels for men. Wait, I didn't even say that shit. What the?
Tell me about, I got to say, for a dude from Mississippi, you sure do not have a Southern accent whatsoever. Like it's.
Well, I've worked to hide it pretty well. It comes out.
You slipped back into it on purpose right there. I'm like, well, I've worked to.
Well, so honestly, I didn't. That's the thing. Like some words, some phrases, or if I'm around someone else with an accent, dude, it's man, I'll start talking like this shit. You remember back in like 1994 when we were at that party. Yeah. I mean, part of that comes from actually all of that comes from the set of assumptions that people have about people from Mississippi, and a number of which are probably closer to being right than a lot of people in Mississippi would like. And part of it too is I was a professor for many years, and
wow, you were a
professor?
Get in front of it.
Yeah, I taught sociology at a bunch of different places, University of Mississippi.
Wow.
I'm
That's
finishing
amazing.
up my doctorate right now, but I quit teaching in 2019. This is maybe a good story. It's cosmically funny. I'll put it that way. 2019 gets the end of the spring semester. I'm like, I'm done teaching full time. Music's going well. Let's do this. I have an amazing partner who's supportive. Let's go. And then we get to 2020 and everything falls apart. And I'm like, shit, that was good timing on my part to stop doing that. The plus side was that I, once they started opening schools back up way too fucking fast, I didn't have to interact with 18-year-olds who were not washing their hands and fucking snotty and hungover from the party the night before. No, none of that. I just stayed in my house.
Right. So you went to remote schooling.
No, I quit.
Oh yeah. Okay. So you just didn't do anything. Gotcha. So
I quit teaching.
You just didn't have to deal with it at all. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So it was sort of thing where I was like, well, damn, I'm glad I quit last year for this reason, but damn, I sure could use that money right now.
But so that's basically, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're doing this job like throughout all of the early years of Khemmis.
Yeah, I did it. I taught for 11 years.
Wow.
And
That's fucking awesome, man. Like, that's impressive, dude.
oh, thank you. If anyone's thinking about going to grad school and being a professor, just don't do it. Just don't. Do literally anything else. Doesn't matter what. Do anything else. I'm so much happier not teaching. Being a musician, I'm never going to be rich. God, I sleep better at night. I sleep so much better at night.
What was the? I mean, something drew you to it, though. Originally, at least.
Oh yeah. I mean, like a lot of things, when you're young and idealistic, you think that you are going to single-handedly change the world. And I was like, yeah, being a professor, that's going to be it for me. Also, I was kind of, I was a good student, but I was like an underachieving stoner at the same time. So I was like, well, grad school is just like never leaving college, and then I can just teach, and then I just never have to like go take drug tests. And, sadly, that was part of my logic.
Why don't you have to take drug tests?
Because you don't.
Because it's grad school?
I mean, grad school, but even like as a faculty member, they don't. Dude, if they tested professors for drugs, every good creative writing professor in the country would be out of a job. Because they're all, and I mean, I say this, in a, I hope, a kind way. Mm-hmm. They're all high a lot, and that's where they get good inspiration from.
Right.
God, that's
high on. You're just talking about weed, though, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
At times,
pills,
yeah.
Pills and weed, yeah.
Pills never for me, but I mean, I'm sure that there are plenty of professors who have found solace in pills. For me, I mean, it was mostly booze and weed.
Yeah.
Sometimes other things, but mostly booze for me. I mean, I was a big drinker I started drinking when I was 13, Mississippi.
Right.
And stopped when I was 33. So I got a good 20 years in of hitting it pretty hard. Mm-hmm. And around the time, shortly after I got sober, actually, is when I realized that I was going to quit teaching. And looking back, I was like, a lot of that drinking was because I was teaching, and we don't pay teachers very much. So I was teaching all the time. I mean, there were some semesters that between face-to-face and online, I'd teach 10, 12 classes a semester.
Holy shit. That's a lot, man.
Yeah. And then play in Khemmis and, write albums and go on the road.
Tour,
and
yeah.
It's fucking brutal. There's a reason
your university, or I don't know if it's a university, but your place where you worked, employed you, was okay with you going on the road for 6 weeks or 8 weeks? Or
I mean, we had to be very intentional about, when we were touring at the time. A couple times I was able to like only teach online for a semester. So we could, like, we did the Decibel tour with Enslaved. I was only teaching online, but like, we'd get off stage and I'd go to the green room and like grade essays online.
Oh, wow.
And it was fucking brutal, and would not recommend it again.
Yeah. Still though, I got to say though, like in some ways that's, I think that teachers are undervalued and underappreciated in the world. And, the fact that you did it is, I think it's super cool. Like,
hey,
I
thanks,
think it's
man.
really, it takes a lot. It's a lot of giving. It's a lot of, I'm sure it's mentally exhausting and frustrating in a political sense that, I'm sure that there's all kinds of behind the scenes politics and wherever you're teaching and bullshit like that. So, the fact that you even did it, that's pretty rad. I mean, and through all of like the early days of like, up until just recently through Khemmis.
Yeah. Like my parents were teachers. And so a lot of it too, I mean, they were they were public school teachers, which in many ways is an even tougher gig.
Right.
So I grew up knowing that teaching would never make you rich, but I was like, it'll give you a sense of accomplishment and you're doing something for the world. And I'm not gonna say that's not true, but in my case, it took more than it gave. And you can't sustain yourself or a marriage or friendships on a sense of martyrdom. As much as we might like that idea, like it will eat you from the inside out. And eventually you have to do something for yourself and make sure that you don't literally work yourself to death. And, it helps too, like sort of going back to the being from Mississippi thing. Like I grew up poor, always been poor. So, even when I told my wife, I was like, I'm thinking about what if I quit teaching and just did music? She was like, I never married you because I thought you were going to be rich. I'd rather have you happy and poor than wanting to die and wealthy. And I'm like, That's a very succinct way of putting that. I think I will take your advice.
As I'm listening to you saying all this stuff about, you're teaching and you're on a tour and then you're coming off stage and you're grading essays and stuff like that. At the same time, kind of, especially, in the first handful of years and even now, you guys are like, you're getting like top 20 metal albums of the year in Rolling Stone. You're getting Decibel album of the year, like all this. I mean, very high profile praise and, kind of, I don't want to say you're media darlings, but like certainly, like it's pretty wild what's going on and being said. And I mean, your head's just got to be spinning. I don't know how much does that become important at any point to you? Are you like, what's going through your head when that type of stuff's going on?
I mean, especially when it first started, I think it seemed like a bigger deal to everyone else because Denver, geographically and culturally is fairly insulated from the rest of the country. And so, whatever sort of coverage is happening in, blogs or publications or whatever, it's almost like it exists on the periphery. But once it sort of hit home and we started doing bigger tours and things like that, I mean, does it matter? It feels nice to have people say nice things about you. I think we can both agree about that. But the biggest thing for me, the biggest realization I had in the last few years was that if you rely on other people to make you feel like the work you're doing in this world is worthwhile, it will never be enough. And this record, like, I'll say this, that like at no point was I ever thinking, or we ever thinking as a band, like, oh, we gotta guess what the critics want to hear or the fans want to hear, because we've always known that that's a losing gamble. Because the moment you try to do that is when you put out, just a turd of an album. You got to always trust yourself. People like it or they don't. But with this record, for the first time, because of what it took to see through to completion and what it took to even just start writing it, whether it's, my struggles with mental health, whether it's the other guys, sort of struggling with, intergenerational trauma or family history, like all of the stuff that it took to make this album. When I held my personal copy that Nuclear Blast had sent over, when I held that vinyl for the first time, I felt that was enough. And that, of course, I hope everyone likes it, but if everyone fucking hates it, it's a testament to survival. It's a testament to love and joy, and to, acknowledging that darkness is guaranteed in every facet of our lives. And that if we don't give up, and if we surround ourselves with the right kind of people, we can still survive and even thrive. And more so than with anything I've ever done in my life, this album feels like it's enough. Now, that said, yes, everyone go buy the fucking record, because I would love to, buy stuff. I'd love to own my own home at some point. But like, fuck, I'm alive, and I've surrounded myself with good people that I get to make music that I believe in, and anything else beyond that is icing on the cake.
Yeah, that's rad. That's awesome. What what? Take me back to Mississippi. Take me back to growing up in northern Mississippi.
Take you on back to Mississippi. All right.
I got to say, I actually we played some shows in Mississippi before, and I do like Mississippi.
Where did you play? Did you play like on the coast? Maybe
yeah,
like
on the
Biloxi
coast.
or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of the casinos, and there's something down there, and we play. It's a good vibe though. Like
that makes sense. I was like, you definitely didn't play like northern Mississippi. You play at like the state fair or something.
I remember back in the day, I used to be in a thrash band called Violence, and Violence played some weird places in Mississippi, like some really small clubs, a lot of a lot of Nazi skinheads, that type of vibe.
Yeah, I know that still some bands from New Orleans would go up and play in like Hattiesburg, which I mean, you can do that, I guess. I've been to Hattiesburg twice, and that was all I needed.
Okay.
Yeah, man, growing up in Mississippi was it's tough, in the sense that my parents, although they were both Southern, my mom's from Mississippi, My dad's from Nashville originally. We're both highly educated, came from big families. We're the only siblings. Well, my dad was the only one of all his brothers that went to college. My mom and two of her sisters were the first ones in their family to ever go to college, that sort of thing. So I grew up, even though both my parents were public school teachers, I grew up with a very, I don't know, forward-thinking household in a very small town where like the two big things in my hometown were Walmart and all of the churches.
And all of the
There
churches.
were like a dozen churches in a town. When I left, the population was 4,000. And then the other big thing was when we went from just a Walmart to the 24-hour Walmart Supercenter.
Yes.
Like that was it. I grew up.
Civilization has come.
Dude, it's funny to sort of look back and you see all the different sort of ways in which your life could have gone. And like all the people I knew, all my buddies that had like camouflage pickup trucks and they like to go mudding on the weekends. And, the only time they took their ball caps off was when they went to church.
Right.
Right. And to think like very nearly could have just been like, you know what, mom and dad, all of your science bullshit, I hate it. I'm going to stay here.
Right.
But thankfully, was raised in a way and with a worldview where I was like, I remember my parents telling me when I was growing up, they're like, one day we'll realize how much bigger the world is than this town. And I was like, I can't fucking imagine that. There's 12 churches in this town. That seems massive to me. And
did you guys go to all 12 churches?
Jesus, no, we didn't go to any of them.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's why, like maybe that.
Yeah, I mean, that was part of it too. My parents were always like, hey, if you want to go, like when I was like 9 or 10, I was like, I want to try different religions. And so like, we went to a couple of different flavors of Christian churches locally, went to a Buddhist temple, went to a friend of mine, we went to his bar mitzvah, and I was like, I don't know about all this. This is probably not for me either. But they were like, look, you're going to find the thing that's you, whether it's religion or not. We're pulling for not religion, but also like whatever. And
that's really interesting, especially coming from the South. I mean, that's that's definitely not the common thing, let alone let their kid experiment with other religions.
Yeah.
I remember at one point my son, I want to say he was about 6, and he started asking me about religion, and we've not raised them to be very religious at all, but we're like, if that's what you want to check it out. And we started going through different religions, and I'm trying to explain it to him, like, as an adult he's like 6 or 7, so I'm like, you got to really break it down into like, building block, like numbskull level. So finally I just pulled up a Wikipedia, and I'm just like, well, this is like, we would ask about religion, like, so this is God. And then, for these people, this is God. And then for these people, this is God, and he's a different God. And then for we start looking at the pictures of various gods and all this stuff. And then I said, and then these people fight these people because they think that their God is better than their God. And then that group of people fight them back because they believe that. And he was like, after like 10 minutes, he was like, this is so stupid.
I mean, there's something to that. There's something to like, I think that also speaks to why, religious folks tend to start taking their children in at the earliest possible age, because the moment they, have that childlike wonder and then can step back from religion and go, none of that makes any sense. I mean, that was my experience as a kid. I was just like, you're telling me that if I pick the wrong name for the guy in the sky, like I go to hell?
Right.
Or worse? There's worse? What's worse? I come back as a slug? I don't know about any of this. But at the same time, like having the freedom to figure that out for myself, sort of going back to the Steely Dan thing, the moment your parents say like, this is the way it is, you're going to push back against it. And if my parents had been like, there's no God, you don't ever, I'd have been like, you know what? I'm going to Sunday school and I'm going to Bible camp and I'm going to all of this. And instead, I got to sort of find my own way. Admittedly, my home was the only place where that could happen. I also was taught very early on, it's like, we don't call ourselves atheists in public in our very small town. Right. We just don't do that.
Right.
We don't engage in political discussion with the people that have, shotguns in the back of their pickup trucks. We just don't do that. And I was like, this seems like very practical advice. I haven't always adhered to it as an adult, but as a child, I was very good with it.
That is some very practical advice. Yeah.
But yeah, man, grew up in a small town and then went to college in Mississippi.
Are your parents musical?
My dad was. My dad
He played an instrument or sang?
Yeah,
Yeah.
both. I mean, never, in a particularly professional capacity. My parents met in the early 80s, I guess. My dad was like playing coffee shops around Memphis. They were both living in Memphis, Tennessee at the time. And he was doing some like solo stuff covering, I don't know, probably John Prine, honestly, or whatever else he was doing, backing up other singers, songwriters, that kind of thing.
Okay.
But mostly just, a little, as we always said, a little picking and grinning around the house. His dad, my paternal grandfather, like the most musically talented person I've ever met. He played almost every instrument. He could sing. He had perfect pitch.
Wow.
He built his own instruments. He was a lot of things. I mean, he fought in World War II, and then I don't remember what he did for a while after that, but when he retired the first or second time, he got really serious into woodworking and just learned how to make instruments. And so like he made banjos, guitars, dulcimers. He made a couple of harps, in addition to like furniture.
That's wild.
But so music was a big part of like family, Christmases and stuff. My Papa is what we called him. He would, grab a banjo or a fiddle and start a song, and we would all sing together in a very like adorably Southern, borderline cartoony way.
That's awesome.
Singing songs from the mid 20th century, old Joe Clark and things like that. So
like
music
like
was
blues numbers.
like old bluegrass and country and some like I guess hymns, more like sort of not like explicitly Jesus centric hymns, but sort of like spiritual music, I suppose.
Okay.
In fact, my granddad joined his first band when he was like 86.
Wow.
And it was a bunch of other old retirees.
86. That's amazing.
And I can't remember what they were called. They were called like the old farts or something like that.
Yes.
It probably wasn't farts. It was classier than that. The old folks or something like that. But he'd play banjo, and there was a guy playing stand-up bass, and there's a lady playing the washboard. But music was always part of my life growing up. Whether it's people playing music, my parents putting records on the weekend. And so like I grew up hearing a lot of Fleetwood Mac and Steely Dan, Jethro Tull, Little Feat, stuff like that.
Has MTV come to North Mississippi at this point?
So it existed, but we didn't have cable.
Okay.
So it was the kind of thing that like I had a couple buddies at school that I would like give them a blank VHS, and they would record, music videos and then give it back to me. And that's how I saw, that's how I saw Metallica's video for One.
Okay.
Was on, I guess you would call it like a bootleg VHS kind of thing.
Yeah, totally.
But
what you're saying isn't that uncommon. This happens so many, especially to like kids of, your generation for sure. Like that was like the only way to do it. And sometimes, it took MTV forever just to get into fucking my neighborhood, and I lived in the Bay Area.
Yeah, exactly. But even like when I graduated high school, went to college, I'd never had the internet. Had the internet. That speaks to where I'm from, because you say like, hey, I got the internet. I didn't have internet access. Like I had to go to the library to like get online. So like downloading music, whatever, was totally foreign to me. So when I went to college and we had broadband internet access, suddenly music, like I'd already been listening to metal, but it was the kind of stuff you could see if you couldn't see it in a publication, you didn't know about it.
Right.
So like Pantera, Slayer, some band called Machine Head. Like if you were in Guitar World is actually a huge thing for me.
Oh, okay.
That's actually my earliest memories of all of those bands is, like whether it's the cover story or the little like tune-up sections, and
Right,
being like,
right.
oh, I gotta find this band. Next time I go to Memphis, I'll ask my parents to take me to a CD store, and I'll see if I can scrounge up enough, money to afford to buy a CD.
2 or 3 CDs, yeah.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so, my biannual pilgrimage to Memphis, 45 minutes away, it's like, okay, I've got $47 I've been saving up. What can I do?
Is Headbangers Ball still going at this point? Like when you're in high school, like if they're recording the videotapes for you, are they recording Headbangers Ball or just random rock heavy metal?
I think it would have just been random stuff. I think Headbangers Ball was already, I don't remember when Headbangers Ball went off the air, mid 90s, maybe. I don't know.
Early 90s. Yeah.
Yeah, no. So this was a little bit after that.
Okay.
But it was after that, but before Headbangers Ball 2.
Okay.
Because Headbangers Ball 2, I remember from around the time I went to college.
Yeah, that was like 2000s.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember thinking like, oh man, I wish, this would have been a thing when I was in high school. Because even then, like, I remember that's how I saw a video from Arch Enemy for the first time way back in the day. The I think it was Ravenous, the video for that. And I was like, whoa, if I'd seen this when I was 13, I would have shit my pants. Like, couldn't handle it.
So what are you listening to from like 13 to 17, 18, like high school years? What do you listen to? Radio? The radio?
Oh, yeah. Your local alternative radio station, 96X. So a lot of like, the Butthole Surfers, Nirvana, Collective Soul.
Yeah,
my brother was the first one to really turn me on to metal at all.
Metallica's maybe played at this point, like Black Album.
Yeah, so around that time, he dubbed me a copy of the Black Album. Boy, my whole musical trajectory is just bootleg copies of things now that I think about it.
Dude.
As well as it should be.
The way it is. That's so much of
Yeah. I remember he dubbed me
was
a
hard to
copy
get
of the
back
Black
then.
Album. Dude,
shit was hard to get.
You're gonna go to Walmart and get the censored version? Like, oh, come on. Nobody wants that.
I mean, I remember Walmart back then wouldn't even carry a Slayer. They wouldn't carry if it had a fucking, bad words on it, or swearing, or it had an explicit label, like you weren't gonna find that record in the day.
I remember I got a Beck CD from Walmart, and I don't it might have been his first one or his second one, and it was like edited.
Right.
I don't think of Beck as being a particularly like culturally transgressive artist, and yet Beck was too much for small town Mississippi. They were just like, I don't want turntables and a microphone. No.
I don't want anyone thinking that they're a loser in Mississippi.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody's a loser in Jesus's eyes. But he gave me the Black Album, and then later,
But you're not in a band at any of this point. You're just listening to the radio, hanging out with your cousins.
I started playing guitar when I was 12. And for the first year or two, it was just like alternative rock stuff. And then he gives me the Black Album. It blows my mind. And, depending on who you ask, it's all downhill from there, maybe. Because like a couple months later, I was like, Black Album's great. What else is there? And he was like, oh, where do you hear Master of Puppets? I was like, why? What is this? And then, from there, it's Slayer, it's Pantera.
And then it's drinking.
The drinking and Metallica started almost simultaneously.
Right. You're having your first drink, you said earlier, at 13. So
yeah,
I'm imagining this is like you went down the wrong road or the right road.
Yeah, at this point I can look back and say it was the right road, but what's
the first thing you drink? When you get drunk for the first time, are you drinking whiskey? Are you drinking beer? Or like
nobody's drinking cool shit when they're 13.
I'm wanting it's like probably what's around your parents' house, right? No?
I'll tell you what it was. It was Hornsby's hard apple cider.
Nice.
And just the idea of that right now makes me feel sick in my stomach.
Yuck. I hate cider. But when you're a kid, you're like, fuck it.
Because I remember the first time I ever had beer. The first time I ever had beer was a Bud Heavy. I was 13 or 14, and I was like, why would anyone drink this? This literally tastes like vomit. And my brother was like, no, it's good. You just gotta drink it. And I was like, well, he said it's good, so I guess that means it's good. Chug, 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 chug. Well, also with the Bud Heavy, I remember he had a poster
Is Bud
of.
Heavy just like regular Bud? Is that
Oh,
what you
sorry.
mean?
Yeah, that might be a regional thing. Yeah, Bud Heavy is just a OG Budweiser.
Right, right.
Um, See, even when I don't say things with a southern accent, I still have the vernacular of someone who never quite made it out of the the syrup drenched deep south.
Don't ever lose it. It's great.
But it's, yeah, I mean, it's cheap beer and it's Metallica and it's, I mean,
And hard
Pantera was a
cider.
big thing. Hard apple cider, yeah. Eventually I developed, I won't say a refined palate, but an appreciation for a wider variety of both metal and booze. Um,
Did
but
you
like a lot of things that happened when I went to college.
when
It's
do you
like
smoke weed for the first time?
probably like 6 months after that first drink.
Okay. Yeah.
And
So
it
like
was
pretty all
just,
like it's all kind of going.
yeah.
You're
I
like,
mean,
I'm playing
truthfully,
guitar. I should be drinking and I should be smoking. I'm playing guitar. I'm learning
I mean, that
Metallica
was it
songs.
too. It's like, I heard about these things or I'd read about it. I actually didn't really read about it in Guitar World. They didn't really talk about it so much there, but in like, Metal Maniacs or Kerrang or something. And it was like, what's this weed they're talking about? I think there's a guy down the street that has weed. And it's some guy selling dirt weed, in the bottom of a torn off grocery bag. And, it's just mostly seeds and stems at that point. But you don't care because you're 13 and, I'm growing my hair out. I got my oversized Metallica t-shirt on. Even though I'm making good grades, I'm still trying to posture like I'm a bad boy in high school. I wear the same Metallica shirt almost every day because I could only afford one.
Do you like weed the first time you smoke it?
I don't think so. Thinking back, I mean, I feel like probably the same way that with beer, it was like everyone's doing it. I mean, God, it's like a Dare ad. Everyone's doing it, so I did it to fit in. But like, my parents used to smoke also, so like
Cigarettes.
cigarettes, yeah.
Yeah.
So like, the idea of smoking itself wasn't foreign to me, but I didn't understand that there would be a difference between cigarettes and weed, and I had not smoked a cigarette at that point. And then I smoked weed, and I was like, "Whoa, God! If cigarettes make you feel like this, I get it." And but also, I didn't enjoy it. I remember being like dizzy and feeling groggy. Honestly, feeling kind of the same way about it that I did even when I smoked it in my 30s. But I was like, it's better than drinking all the time, so I guess I'll just do this. Did you like it the first time?
I didn't, and that's why I wondered. In fact, there was a time when I smoked weed a lot, like in high school, like, and I did enjoy listening to music. Like me and my buddies would do it like and listen to music, and I could really like it. Fucking made me hone in on things that I didn't know I could like separate and analyze, and this is kind of before I was really playing even, and but I couldn't. What I didn't like is that I could, and it's even the same way now. Like I couldn't socialize, so
Cool.
weed would make me. If I was already introverted, it made me really introverted. Like I couldn't
Yes.
fucking. All right, have a thought, and by the time it came out of my mouth, it was nothing at all like what I was saying.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What did you just say? Like, and then everybody's like, what did you just say? And I'm like, oh my God, just don't talk. So
Yeah,
there's
dude,
a lot of that.
The interactional anxiety of just like getting, like, anytime I would get stoned, the last thing I wanted was to do. I wanted to just like be and listen to music or watch, TV or whatever. But don't talk to me. And the idea of someone being like, hey, let's go to a place now that we're high. You might as well have been telling me that I was going to have to go fight in a war. I was terrified. It's like, I don't think I can keep it together like that. And certainly not, in high school in Mississippi, where like, looking back, obviously my parents had done drugs when they were younger and they were a lot cooler with things than I understood. But I was like, my parents find out that I do this, they're going to murder me and that I will never leave the house again. They knew every time.
Did they not,
I just thought
you didn't get in trouble? Like they didn't.
I only got in trouble when the only time I ever remember getting in trouble was actually for drinking, not for getting high. And they were worried that I had been in the car with someone who was drinking and driving.
Okay.
And even at a young age, I was like, that seems stupid. Now, like they sat me down and they're like, what you do is what you do. I mean, I was like 17 or so at this point. But it wasn't until years later that they were like, yeah, when you would come home like drunk and stoned and you had just sprayed like cheap cologne on yourself, we didn't think that you were really at the football game with everyone until like 1 a.m. Like you were out getting up to something, coming home smelling like Drakkar Noir. Like you were doing something. We just wanted to make sure you were safe.
That's
and
so
like,
rad to hear your
cool.
It's so rad to hear the parents in the know story, because like so many people are just like, oh yeah, I kept it from my parents, they never knew. And even I kept it from my parents.
Well, I thought I was the slickest motherfucker in the world. I was like, man, my parents have no idea. Idiot fucking 13-year-old me.
My kids think the same thing, and we're like, no, dude, like we know we know what the fuck you're doing. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's the kind of thing where like, until you hit that point, well, some people never do, but for most of us in your like mid-20s or whatever, you're like, oh, actually my parents are three-dimensional human beings with hopes and dreams and a whole life. But for so long, they're just like cardboard cutouts in our lives. They're like figures of authority. That's it. And so it's like, I can pull one over on those idiots. Like, no, it turns out they've done everything I'm doing and much more. They know all the old tricks.
Is your first band a metal band?
In the loosest sense, it was closer to like, I don't know, radio rock or maybe like nu metal.
Okay.
It was not good. I mean,
how old is this? Like high school? Like you start?
This was like junior high.
Oh wow!
And we had one original song, and we could kind of play Inner Sandman, and we could do about half a Sad But True.
Nice.
Oh wait, no, I take it back. And we could do part of a Rage Against the Machine song, but it wasn't good. No, it wasn't. It was I think it may have been that one. Yeah, and that was about as far as we could make it, and then it just sort of fell apart. So,
but you start playing you start playing like gigs, like you're playing backyard parties or
that was it. Like like backyard parties. Like the singer, if you want, the guy who held the microphone. We played his younger sister's birthday party, and I think we might have played his birthday party. Lots of playing parties.
Yeah.
Didn't play in a serious band that actually like played shows and made money in the sense of like maybe getting like, food from the bar or something until I was in college, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, well, I mean, for a little while, my first actual playing shows band, when it started, real fucking bad. It was the kind of thing where we had people from like different musical backgrounds all trying to figure out what that common musical language was. So it wasn't like, oh, we're going to get together and start a death metal band because we all love Deicide. It was like, I was very much into like Soylent Green at that point was like my favorite fucking band. And so the idea of a song that has like 37 riffs in a row and no repetition was my jam. The singer was like, he was a few years older and was very into like old school death metal, like Obituary and Morbid Angel. The drummer was into like super technical extreme metal across the board. The other guitar player was a guy I went to high school with who worked at Domino's. And then we went through like 8 different bass players in the first year. And like, we didn't even look like a band most of the time. It's like everyone looked like they were dressed to play in a different band. But it, over time, we were in that band. It was called Burial Within, which sounds cooler than the band was for the most part. But towards the end, we actually figured out how to kind of look and sound like a band. We never really did anything, but there was, like it is with a lot of people, your first real band is where you make all the mistakes, or at least like 90% of the mistakes. You're like, okay, never doing that again. This is how we don't do that. Whether it's like, make sure everyone in the band has decent gear and has a car or can get to practice.
Right.
Or that, you understand how merchandise works and you know how to get t-shirts printed. Like all of those little things. I did my first tours in that band, and in the early days of MySpace, just sending out 10,000 messages to book 15 days across the US.
Yeah.
You make those early connections. It was that weird place after Book Your Own Fucking Life was a thing, but before Facebook was a thing, and MySpace was just, I mean, it was everything for everybody.
It's kind of a gold rush for a lot of bands.
It really was. A lot of learning. And I've made some friends from that era that I still keep up with today. But mostly you make, at least in my experience, made contacts with a lot of people who were also in their like first real bands, who were the only ones willing to like take a chance and do a show swap with some band out of Memphis, Tennessee. It's like, who the fuck wants to go to Memphis? Well, yeah, come over and play, Nowhere, Alabama, and then we'll come back to Memphis with you, and we'll do that. Right, we'll each play to each other's friends, and we'll lose a lot of money.
A lot of times when I talk to people from the South, they either didn't get laid till they were like 20, or they got laid when they were like 13.
Nope, it was the first one.
20.
Yeah. I think a lot of this goes back to having, liberal, godless parents, but also being like perceived in my hometown, at least, as like kind of a bad kid. Like I never got arrested or anything like that, but because I looked shady,
long hair,
exactly,
doesn't go to church,
exactly. Yeah. I graduated
but
with
that's sometimes attractive for girls, like the bad boy is kind of attracted for some girls
with a large enough sample size. Yes, but there were, I think, 84 other people in my graduating class. None of those women at the time, girls, had any interest in whatever kind of devil worshiping I was peddling. They were like, I'm gonna, if they were having sex, they were having sex with the captain of the football team, not the kid who was just sitting there being kind of moody in class and wanted to talk about, the newest Pantera record. Pantera never got me laid. I'll put it that way.
They would probably be so disappointed to hear that.
Like, shit, man.
We tell the men to eat pussy at every show.
Yeah, but I was kind of lost on, a 17-year-old introverted Ben.
Right. So is it because you are in a band the first time that you get laid? Is it because you are in a band?
No, God.
No. Nothing to do with nothing to do with.
No, I actually went to college, got a girlfriend, in a fairly straightforward manner.
Nice.
No, I never played in a band where anybody gave enough of a shit that could have even been an option until probably Khemmis. But I'm happily married now, so sorry, ladies and dudes, or whoever's into it. You can enjoy it from afar, but off the market. When I was playing in death metal bands, if there were women at the shows, they were not there to see my band. They were like, okay, I'm here to see literally anything else.
When do you move to Denver for Khemmis, or is it just kind of a spur of the moment?
Yeah,
you move away. You live in a couple places. Before you get to Denver, do you move to like Tennessee or any other?
So I was born in Memphis. My folks and I lived in Pennsylvania for a few years, but we moved back south when I was 9, and I lived in Mississippi from age 9 to age 20. How old am I now? 27, I guess.
Oh, okay.
And then my wife and I decided, she was finishing up her master's degree and I was teaching at the University of Mississippi. And she was like, you have been in Mississippi too long. You hate it here. I was like, you're right, I do. She was like, let's go to grad school. And I was like, yeah, it makes it sound like it was just like, yeah, we'll just do it. But we talked about it. We applied to a bunch of places and we wound up getting into the program at the University of Colorado in Boulder. So we moved out here. We moved to Boulder initially, which is like 30 minutes away. Mm-hmm. And then that town is not for us. It's like
very hippie,
it's a bunch of
crunchy hippie, a lot of weed.
So there's a misconception that it's like freewheeling hippie. It's a bunch of former hippies that got money one way or another and are now like pseudo hippies. So they're like
corporate hippies. Like corporate hippies.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like insanely expensive to live there. I don't care for the city at all. But like we'd been in Colorado for like 2 weeks when we went to a show in Denver for the first time. We were like, oh, I think Denver's actually our speed. So once we were able to, we moved to Denver. But we started Khemmis while I was still living in Boulder because originally I had this grand idea. I was like, all right, I'm going to finish my PhD in a couple years and I'm just going to let music sort of sit on the back burner, and then I'll worry about it. We'll get done with this. We'll go wherever our jobs take us, and then I'll start a band there. And by the end of the first semester, my partner was like, you are drinking so much bourbon, you are miserable, and you have put on a bunch of weight. Like, do the thing you love to do and stop acting like you don't want to do that. I was like, you're right, I need to start a band. I am fat and miserable and drunk all the time. And so Khemmis was really born out of like necessity, I suppose, in that sense. It's like I needed to start playing music again. And also that I have always played in more extreme outfits, like, death metal, black, sledge metal kind of stuff. But I wanted to do something like I didn't know Khemmis would be, what it is, but I knew I wanted to do something that was more, I guess, like broadly appealing without like, oh, I want to go play in, a pop band or something like that. Something that could maybe scratch an itch that for me hadn't been scratched. And the funny thing about it is that I met Phil. He's one of the first like 5 people I met in Colorado because he was also a grad student in the same program.
Oh, okay.
And
moving from someplace else.
Yeah. So he had already been out here for 1 year. He was a year ahead of me. And when they introduced the new grad students, they say, okay, this is who they are. This is where they're from. This is what they study. So the professor that introduced me was like, this is Ben Hutcherson. He just moved here from Mississippi. His master's research and his ongoing doctoral research is on, the metal music world. And most of the people there were like, what the fuck? And Phil goes, oh shit, I got to be friends with this guy. So Phil came up to me at the sort of like grad student mixer thing after. He's like, you like metal? I'm like, yeah, you like metal? Yeah. And we started talking about it. I'm like, cool. Well, see you later. He never said, let's play music together, or I know how to sing, or anything. It's just like, I guess we're buddies now.
Where's he from?
Outside of Seattle.
Okay.
And he and his wife had moved down here the year before. And, he'd never played in a band in a serious capacity before.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we start jamming as Khemmis, but we know we need a singer. And I wanted to have a second guitar player. And I said, I know this guy that I'm in grad school with, but I don't think he's ever been in a band. He just said offhand one time that he can sing. Let's just see what happens.
This is Phil you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So Phil came down to.
Who are you talking to when you're saying this? Your drummer?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the guy, Dan, that was playing bass at the time.
Okay.
And Phil came down. Actually, before we got together as a band, Phil came down to the practice space and brought way too much gear because I had way too much gear. And we each set up a full stack with 2 heads each. So basically 2 half stacks stacked together for each of us. Ungodly amount of volume. And we got
that was a real man off that you guys were having right there.
The funny thing is, like, I didn't even think about it like that at the time. Now that you say it, yeah, I think that was it. For me, it was just that the apartment we lived in was so small that I had to put all of my gear in that space.
Okay.
And I was like, well, if I'm going to have it here, I'm going to use it all. Why would I not play through, 200-watt heads all the time? We get together, we start jamming, we drink an 18-pack of Coors Banquet that night.
Yes.
A couple days later, we get together as a band for the first time and jam. And then the 3 of us are talking after Phil leaves, and they were like, yeah, that was cool. And he has a cool voice. I think we should ask him to join. And I was like, guys, I kind of already told him he was in the band because he and I got together and jammed, drank a bunch of beer the other night. And I was just like, you should be in the band. And then he said yes. So, I mean, I'm glad we're all on the same page, but it was kind of happening no matter what. And, it has been just a real joy to get to play with Phil over the last. It's crazy to say that we started this band almost 10 years ago, but that's how time goes. And that, it really was born of a conversation around 2 things. One, that he'd heard that I was, researching metal, and 2, I didn't wear a mustache at the time and he didn't wear a beard. And so as we were talking, I was like, if you put your mustache with my beard, you'd have really great facial hair, which is a super weird thing to say to someone the first time you meet them. But it endeared me to Phil, and we've been good friends for 10 years. So something about that Southern charm, I think. I can sell a line like that. You don't have the right kind of accent. It comes off as a little, I'm gonna sneak in the middle of the night, cut your face off.
Well, dude, been a great chat, man. It's been an awesome chat.
This has been an absolute joy, man. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate this.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Why don't you plug your new album?
Yeah. New album Deceiver comes out November 19th on Nuclear Blast Records. You can pre-order it. Please pre-order it or buy it at your favorite local record store. They need the support as well. Come see us. We're playing at St. Vitus at the end of the year. We're going out doing the western half of the U.S. in January.
Nice.
We'll be in the Bay.
Oh, awesome.
I would tell you the date, but I don't know.
Okay.
It's the last 2 weeks of January.
All right.
Yeah. I'll hit you up and let you know when. But yeah, come out. We're playing in Berkeley at the Foundry. Is that what it's called?
Okay. I haven't been there. Is that a place? That's a new place. It's a new place.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be doing that. Got some other cool stuff coming out that we can't announce yet, but we'll announce soon. But mostly just be good to one another. Listen to some cool music and, take care of yourselves.
Hell yeah. You heard it from the man right there, ladies and gentlemen. The mighty Ben Hutcherson, Khemmis. No fucking regrets.
No fucking regrets!
With Robb Flynn.